Texting my bows. Hold up. Welcome to the Big Motor Small Blade podcast. I am, of course, Buddy Pulley, joined by three co-hosts this week. I'm joined by Brickyard 400 winner Seth Dolby. He celebrated so hard that he hasn't slept since. And then we are also joined by Anthony Damcott from Frontstretch.com. I was hoping he would be Chuck's replacement for this week, but surprise to me, Chuck showed up. So I'm sorry for that in advance. The Brickyard 400, three of us were here. Chuck was doing fuck all in North Carolina. So we'll have a grand old time, and Chuck can listen to us talk about how great Indianapolis was. We'll start from the top. Seth, talk about your day being a Kyle Larson fan and experiencing him winning the Brickyard 400.
Well, it was definitely a race I had circled on the calendar pretty much since Darlington last year when he won. Obviously, normal people would circle the Daytona 500. As an intellectual, I know Kyle Larson's not going to win that one. So the next big race I thought he might be able to win was not the Indy 500, the Brickyard 400. And somehow that happened. We'll get into that. It was pretty cool. Again, I haven't slept since. I'm working hour 36 right now.
Yeah. Let's go.
It's not good.
Okay.
All right, but yeah.
He's trying. Seth had a really good time yesterday.
I did.
We posted a cool video of after the checkered flag on our Instagram page. It was obviously fun to watch Seth be excited about Kyle winning. That was a nerve-wracking last stint of the race. Anthony, how was your week? You were working. How was your time at Indy?
It was good. It was my first Brickyard 400, so it was nice to see at least some. Obviously, it's not the Indianapolis 500, but to see the prestige that track holds, even for the return to the oval for the Brickyard, was really cool. And my one complaint, and I'm sure we'll get into this later. My one complaint is the trips to the care center were a little not ideal because I was near pit road and the care center's in turns 1 and 2 essentially. Yeah. So I was hustling back and forth quite a bit, especially at the end. So, but I mean, overall, I think it was a great weekend. And then, of course, the trucks. Not that anyone cares about the trucks, but the trucks being an IRP. Switching out. Bring them to the big old. Let's see how that goes. It won't go well, but great. Let them have some sort of crown jewel that's not Daytona, because that also equally doesn't go well. But I digress. It was a great weekend overall.
All right, awesome. Explain to everybody what you do for Frontstretch.com, other than keep Chuck in line.
Yeah, so I'm in one of the editors for the site. I recently personnel shift has led me to help old Chuck out with short track stuff. Obviously, I go to the track a lot. My main beat is the truck series. That's why I brought them up, because I'm covering the truck series for Frontstretch, and then I also have a biweekly column called Fire on Fridays that I write, where I try to give hot takes, but I mean, who knows these days if they're actually hot or if everyone's just thinking the same thing I am. But I try to be original if I can. But I do a lot within the site. But it's a lot of fun. I've gotten to work. I got to work with Chuck at Wilkesboro, so that was fun. So
sure, that was entertaining.
Oh, it was. It was a blast. Hanging out in the media center with him for 5 straight days with rain and biblical flooding, and Greg Engel to my left talking about drinking games and stuff like that because of the weather and the lightning clock resetting 500 times. So, yeah, it was great. It was a great time.
He spent 5 days in the rain hanging out with a circus clown. What's not to love?
A lot. There's a lot
somehow
not to love.
Chuck was like, you know what? I want him to help me with short track stuff, apparently. So here we are.
All right. So that's how we got here. You should apologize. Anyway, I also was at the Brickyard. I rode bitch in the back of Seth's truck all the way to Indianapolis.
Well, hang on. Buddy volunteered
I did volunteer to ride bitch. We had our good friend Tyler. If you've seen any of the great photos that were taken, they were almost all of them were taken by Tyler or Ben. How do you pronounce his last name? I'm fucking stupid.
Branscombe.
Thank you. With TobyChristie.com, we hung out with him. That was really fun too. But no, I mean, Indy's special, man. I mean, it is this. I said last week on the show, I wasn't even sure that NASCAR really needed to be at Indianapolis anymore. I was wrong. 100%.
At least you admit it.
Yeah, I mean, we went to the Daytona 500 this year, which this is just hitting me that we went to the Daytona 500 and the Brickyard 400 this year. So that's pretty cool. And then we're going to be at Southern 500. And then we both had a person at the 500.
Indy 500 and the 600, yeah.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. But we are them. Anyway, the 500, obviously, we talked about how palpable the energy and the feeling was of the event, and I felt that a lot with this race, and it was just a fun weekend overall. Even the terrible truck race it wasn't a terrible truck; it was a truck race of all time. But
nothing's worse than the championship race last year, so that's the bar that's been set now.
That's true. Yeah, I was there too. I shouldn't complain. But IRP is awesome. I think Seth said it best when we were sitting there. He's like, dude, just Indy in general, just the whole town, just incredible. And the fans there are amazing too. So with other that, let's get into the actual like nitty gritty of the race. Seth, you want to kick us off with our first little topic?
Yes.
Kind of big. I called it little.
Wait, okay, look, I'm again delirious. Which one was the topic?
Let's do it. Okay, all right, let's do the restart.
Okay, the restart. Right,
let's tackle this final restart so Seth can make his peace with this before he falls asleep.
Wait, the final restart or the first overtime restart?
The first overtime restart.
Yeah,
they were both all over
the one
the place.
Everyone's talking about. The one everyone's talking about.
The one that matters.
First overtime.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, to set the stage, and we'll talk about this more later. Kyle Larson mounts a charge through the field. Ends up in third with a couple laps to go. Brad Keselowski is almost certainly not going to make it on fuel, which actually probably could have if it had gone green, maybe, possibly. We'll debate. Ryan Blaney was close on fuel, who was in second. Kyle was good on fuel in third. Caution comes out because Kyle Busch just has to cause a caution every week. And that leads up to the first overtime restart where Brad Keselowski's on the inside lane, which is the preferred lane on the restart. Blaney's on the outside of him in second. Larson's third. Coming to the restart, Brad peels off. Larson assumes the inside lane, as they've done before when this has been the case, and they do it all the time on the start of the race if the pole sitter or anybody has to pull out a line to get in the back. So Larson rightfully assumes the inside lane, and then they get to the restart zone, and it is the narrative, at least right now, is that Kyle Larson jumped the restart. And gave Ryan Blaney, basically Ryan Blaney had his advantage taken away. And then Kyle, like I just said, quote unquote, jumped the restart. What do we think? Seth, you go ahead since you got the rant. I hear.
Yes. Okay. So, the onboard camera from Kyle Larson pretty definitively shows that Blaney goes a moment before Kyle. Kyle timed it absolutely perfectly.
Yeah.
From the overhead shot, it honestly did kind of look like Kyle may have jumped it, but I think the onboard camera is pretty damn definitive.
Yeah,
that's my opinion.
So I'll put it to clarify. Like, you see Blaney, he fires first and immediately stops.
Yeah.
It's like he gave it a blip of the throttle and then Larson goes. That's kind of what I thought initially, like when everybody's ranting and raving, like, oh, you fucking jumped the start, Hendrick favoritism, golden boy, whatever, like Blaney was yelling about on the radio. I was like, all right, this must be like pretty egregious. And it really wasn't, in my opinion. What's Chuck, you take it too. We haven't gotten to talk much.
So I actually watched the onboard camera live because I was on the way home from the beach.
Anthony, go ahead and take it. Chuck made his piece with it. Sorry, Chuck.
That was the only thing I had to watch because that NBC Sports app sucks. So I'm watching that and listening to the IMS radio. And honestly, I've watched it back multiple times. Seth and I were looking at it. I think I agree with you guys. Blaney fires just a second before Larson does. Now, I will say, I honestly think I think the fact that they started that close to each other is purely coincidental because I don't think either one of them truly understood the rules there. Blaney clearly didn't based on his blow up on the radio. But I think it's fair to assume Larson may have thought he was the control car and they both happened to fire at the same time thinking they were the control car.
Why would Kyle have thought he was a control car though?
He
was 100 yards, 100 feet before he was third. Why would he think he's a control car?
In that instant, he assumes the former race leader's position.
Yeah, that was. Hold on, Anthony? Do you know if didn't they like ask an official about that or try to something? Wasn't there something going on with that?
No, they asked an official if they could pull around Brad.
No, I feel like there was. Hold on.
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, to kind of put that, Kyle Larson said in this post-race press conference that even he wasn't sure who was the control car. He didn't know if it was him or Blaney.
That was what it was.
And he said, and I don't think it's an exact quote, but he said that I kind of feel like we fired at the same time. So really neither of the guys on the front row had any idea of who was the control car and who was in charge, basically who was in charge up front.
And if you watch it back, they both fire like as soon as they get into the zone.
Yeah.
So I think it's fair to assume they both thought they were the control car and they were both like, oh shit, better take care of this now because there's a lot of confusion going on. And they both went. And Blaney happened to fire like a split second before Larson, which means it's within the rules. Kyle didn't jump the restart. Now, did he know he was not the control car? Not necessarily, but based on what happened and the video evidence and the audio when you listen to it, he didn't jump the start.
I think there's something to be said too. I mean, the evidence is damning. Ryan Blaney, he went first, 100% went first. Now, his technique on the restart, which allowed Larson to get the jump that he did once they did fire, I think it had a lot to do with Brad peeling off. I think Ryan probably looked over and saw Brad peeling off and was like, oh shit, what do we do? And he probably approaches that restart differently had it gone as it was gonna. But game time decision. You see how things get when we're seeing this literally right now in America. We have a president drop out of the race, and now the other party's scrambling to figure out how to counteract that. Literally, Brad drops out, and Blaney's got to figure out how he's got to approach the guy who's assuming the position. So, I mean, I think there's something to be said there that it was confusing, and it was instincts that won the race, or at least won the restart, in my opinion.
I just think this narrative that Ryan Blaney tried to push, that if he was on the inside, he would have beaten Kyle Larson, is asinine. I'm sorry.
Why is that?
It wasn't happening.
I mean, he definitely wasn't going to beat the 5.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
That's what I just said.
I think he might have beaten the 5 into turn 1, but obviously we all saw that last run. The 5 had such a fast car, and I think he would have gotten back by him anyway. But I think, one of the crashes, I talked to Daniel Emmerich, and he said that Indianapolis is a lane-dependent track. So obviously Blaney's pissed off that he wants, he doesn't get the bottom, because he probably does beat the 5 in the turn 1. Now, whether he keeps the lead is a completely different story. But I can kind of understand where he's coming from in that regard. Not 100%, but I kind of get it.
I'm glad you said that because sorry, Chuck, I'll let you talk here in a second. But it brings up something I've kind of thought the entire time, which was Brad was already close. I mean, he was approaching lap 60 on the stent. Ryan Blaney should have known that I think the gamble, being on the outside is such a disadvantage. He absolutely should have gambled on Brad running out of gas. And on top of this, hang on, there's a second part to this. There were 2 guys in the top 4 at the end of this race that were trying everything in their power to make sure the other car from their manufacturer could not win the race for some reason. As we saw in the closing stages, Daniel Hemrick, despite needing to pit with 5 laps to go, raced the shit out of Kyle Larson when there's 2 Fords in front of him. I don't understand that at all. Does not make any sense to me. And then, of course, Brad Keselowski, knowing he's 60 laps into a fuel run and probably is going to run out of gas as soon as he hits the gas hard at all, just sticks the 12 car on the outside of him or behind him. It's asinine to me.
I have something here. Blaney, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Because if you take the outside, you run the risk of being on the outside and not being at an advantage with Brad or next to Brad. But if you start behind him, you run the risk of Brad not going and you ask back in the 6 car.
See Kyle Busch in Nashville.
Exactly.
It's less likely on the inside than it is on the outside, though.
What?
Well, when you're on the outside, you can't go anywhere. When you're on the inside, you can go to the bottom, or the guy who ran out of gas can go further to the bottom.
What if Brad? I mean, we saw what if Brad fires and then it stumbles and Blaney,
that's more for the guy in row 3 than the guy in row 2. The guy in row 2
I just don't. Yeah, I just don't think. I think either way, Blaney was in a tough spot. I'll put it like that. But to kind of feel like I'm the only Daniel Hemrick fan in the world, so I'm going to try to defend him here.
I'd like to hear it.
Here's what I think. If you're Daniel Hemrick, it's 5 laps to go in the Brickyard 400. You haven't run fantastic all year. You haven't really run fantastic in your entire career other than winning that one Xfinity race, which was a big deal. And you're coming around, he has the pit with 5 to go. The caution comes out. They gamble and they could save. And then you're on row 2 trying to win the Brickyard 400 with a guy in front of you that also might not make it. So now, I mean, just think about that. Say that caution comes out before Hemrick pits, and Hemrick decides to stay out and try to gamble, and say Brad doesn't make it on fuel. Daniel Hemrick's in a spot to where he could finish top 2 or 3 in the Brickyard 400. So I get it. I get why you don't want to.
I'm pitted with 5 to go. They didn't even think they were close.
Okay, well, I'm trying to play devil's advocate a little bit.
At least Brad thought they were close because they stayed out.
Yeah,
and he did make that thing last 60 laps. So a lot of caution laps.
Jeremy. I'll text Jeremy right now while Chuck makes his piece about it. We'll move on, but I'll text Jeremy, who works at Calling, and see if he can give us any insight on what the 31 car was doing there.
I mean, I don't really have much to add to it. I kind of agree with Buddy that Blaney was in a tough spot either way. Just to touch on what Blaney said about their post-race, about there needing to be some kind of rule change for that, I disagree. We've been doing the same thing forever, especially since the choose came into effect. The rule has always been if somebody has to pull out a line after the choose, the entire line moves up a row. That's how the rule is. Bad luck bit him in the ass. That doesn't mean we have to make a rule change for it. I think it's also worth noting, didn't the 12 stumble on the second overtime restart at some point going through 1 and 2? That's what I heard over the radio. I don't know if that's true or not. They said that on the radio broadcast. So in that case, yeah, the 5 would have lined up outside the second overtime and got around the 12 on the outside when the 12 stumbled, if that's the case. So, because they were all close on fuel. And to defend Hemrick and Brad and all of them,
it is Indy.
If this was last week,
yeah,
most of them wouldn't have even thought about it, but it's the Brickyard 400. You're going to try it. I mean,
Paul Menard won the Brickyard 400 one time, and we all remember that Paul Menard won the Brickyard 400. Had he won at Pocono or Loudon, most people would have forgotten by now.
I understand y'all's point, and I'll let Anthony talk here in a second. I keep talking too much. I'm sorry, but
it's fine. You're probably not going to be talking here.
That's very true. I understand y'all's point, and in fact, I'm willing to admit that my take about Brad is asinine. I agree with it, but it's probably asinine.
But again, Seth was having a conniption in the grandstands.
Yes.
Let's be real.
Okay, I will admit that. I just think if you're pitting with 4 or 5 laps to go, then you don't even think you're close. Caution comes out or not, like you don't think you're close. Stop.
On that note, Anthony, what you got?
Yeah, I mean, so we talked about this yesterday. Me and mine and Chuck's colleague Steven Stump, shout out to him. We had talked about what if there was anything that should have come of that, and the issue is this kind of situation is so rare, right? The last time that we saw a situation where the leader of all people follows the pace car down pit road on a late restart. I mean, the one that I could maybe think of was, I think the 2018 Fall Talladega race, if I'm remembering correctly, that SHR dominated. And I think it was Harvick and Boyer. I think both ran out of fuel.
Greg Biffle 600, 2011.
Yeah, it's happened before, but I think this is the first time this situation has come up since the choose rule. And when you have the option to pick, right or left, obviously there had to have been communication on the 12 radio about if the 6 stumbles or if the 6 pits. It was a team decision. It wasn't like he was forced to restart in the outside and kind of got screwed over there. Like he chose to restart in the outside, and it's unfortunate. Like, part of me is like, why? I get why the 6 stayed out as long as he did. But like, Ryan Blaney chose to go up to the top. There was a case for maybe re-racking the field essentially. And I guess you could do that, but that would waste 2, 3, 4 laps just disorganizing all of them, putting them back in the running order they were in before, and then choosing again. And then in a situation like Indy, we have people who are already short on, low on fuel. Even Rick Hendricks said that, there was concern on the 5 radio of maybe being low if they had another restart. So, that would have ran more people out of fuel. We've had a more caution. It probably would have turned into a whole big debacle. So there probably needs to be some clarity about the rule, but I agree. I don't think there needs to be a complete rule change, especially since, again, Blaney and his team decided that the top was the way to go with the 6 in the situation that he was in.
I think also there's something to be said about as far as re-racking. One, the rule right now is they don't re-rack them, but in the future event, or at least the argument there is, it's pretty clear they're trying to get the race over with. It got bumped to USA when for the finish. So we all saw the decision at the end of the race. They decided to not throw the yellow, which we'll get into here in a minute, until Kyle took the white. And I think it was just they had a weird spot with TV and everything, which that shouldn't affect your officiating, which technically it didn't, because it is the rule is the line just moves up. But in a future event, maybe it should be clear. I did. Jeremy just texted me back. Jeremy is a friend of ours that works in College Racing. He said he didn't know exactly what the plan was, but this is what he would imagine they were thinking. He said, I think their plan was to see if they could catch a caution and save some fuel. Unfortunately, things went green way too long. Also, it was good to see how our car would do in clean air, or see if your car would do better in cleaner air, and it did. And that was really all he had to say. He said, not sure what exactly the deal was, but he imagined that was it. They were hoping for a yellow that essentially never came. So, moving on to let's go ahead and talk about the final non-caution of the race. So obviously they have a red flag. Kyle Larson thinks his starter's not working, and he ends up needing a push. I'm surprisingly didn't see much like discourse about whether or not the push should have happened.
Oh, I saw several brain dead ticks.
Really?
That one.
Yeah, that's
just for the uninitiated, which is apparently the entirety of NASCAR social media this weekend. This is a common thing. You're not ever going to lose your spot for not starting up immediately after the red flag. That's never been a thing. Yeah, I don't know where this narrative came from, other than I think I'm about to start calling it Larson derangement syndrome, because it's clear and obvious at this point, and I'm going to get more into that in a moment. But
right.
Yeah.
So the final restart happens after the red flag. Kyle gets a great jump. It's game over basically already. Reddick's not going to get there. But Ryan Preece gets turned by Chase Elliott coming off turn 2.
Ryan Preece ran out of gas.
Well, I was about to say that.
Well, why didn't you?
I was you interrupted me. That's why I didn't say it.
Yeah, he cut to it.
All right. Sorry. All right. So Kyle Larson gets the restart of the Century, and Ryan Preece runs out of gas and then gets turned by Chase Elliott because he ran out of gas. Excuse me.
Good job, buddy.
And so he ends up, and he's a beach whale essentially off of turn 2, and he's trying to get the car refired. Meanwhile, they're coming around for the white. He stopped and then tries to get going again, and then stops again, tries to get going again. I don't know. Ryan Preece doing Ryan Preece things. Essentially, they wait till Kyle gets to the white. He goes in the one. They throw the yellow. In fact, ending the race. A lot of people are upset, thinking they should have re-racked them. My opinion, I mean, like I just said earlier, they're trying to get the race over with. They're trying to prevent another shit show from happening, like the huge crash that happened on the last restart. That's all Daniel Hemrick going from a potential top 5 in the Brickyard to getting completely destroyed.
Or Nashville. Or Brickyard 2017.
Yeah. You got it, Seth. Yeah, go ahead, take it.
I'm pretty sure he gladly will.
Hey, buddy, I need some help hosting the show this week because I'm tired of shit. But like, not that much help apparently. Anyway,
this is the part I'm excited about. So the ending of this race was consistent.
Very.
It's the exact same thing that happened at Pocono last year, and I know what you're thinking. Oh boy, they helped another Hendrick car, didn't they? Yes, indeed. They helped a Hendrick car that was a number 11 with a Mavis tire driven by one James Dennis Hamlin. So apparently the driver doesn't matter in that situation. If Ryan Preece is stranded at a track the size of Pocono or Indianapolis, they will wait till the field gets close to him before they throw the caution. This is now.
And when he says consistent, it is consistent down to, like he said, the driver. It was Ryan Preece in this exact same situation.
So, again, another instance of LDS. Sorry. Damn, I wish we could make that LSD. That would roll off the tongue better. We cannot. I will work on that one for the next time Kyle Larson exists, and y'all don't like it.
All right.
Look, I'm usually really fair, and honestly, I have mulled over everything all day. Chuck, I will give it to you in a second. I've mulled over everything all day. I literally went on Reddit to ask for a picture of something because I couldn't find it. We'll get there, because it wasn't in any of the highlight reels as far as I could tell. And yeah, I think I'm being fair.
If Seth is going to put Larson's dick in his mouth, he's got to get an STD test first. Let's be clear. Anyway, go ahead, Chuck.
All right, so the sentiment around this finish that for some reason we should have thrown another yellow and re-racked the field one more time is absolutely stupid. I'm just going to say that. And no,
wow,
so louder for those in the back, Chuck.
It has nothing to do with who won the race because they didn't have a problem with it at Pocono last year either.
And no one likes Denny.
we live in a world where this fan base, and the mass majority of this so intelligent fan base, would rather run 70 fucking miles past the scheduled distance of a race and wreck 37,000 race cars than preserve the integrity of a sport that already gets called rigged and Mickey Mouse and the autos and the motorsports version of the WWE. But yes, let's just make ourselves look like more clowns rather than allow the guy 2.5 miles to get his car going. And once he's finally actually in danger of oncoming race cars, then throw the yellow as the yellow flag is intended to be used. It's stupid. I don't understand. I was at Nashville, and it was the most embarrassing thing I've ever witnessed in my life because the greatest race car drivers in the world looked like a bunch of Make-A-Wish kids in the second grade trying to wheel stock cars, and they sucked at it. They couldn't even make it a lap without wrecking. And in case anybody didn't watch, they did this same call in the 5th overtime at Nashville because Truex wrecked, and they let him get his car going. This also happened at Fontana in 2016 when they let Greg Biffle get his car going. Believe it or not, sometimes race cars refire. That's what the goal was here. And
they
the fact that
Chicago, Danny Hamlin and Ricky Stenhouse spun, and they
exactly
let him go. Yeah.
So, but sure, let's just re-rack them and destroy the integrity of a race that already had its integrity destroyed once so badly that it went away for a shitty road course. I'm done. This narrative is absolutely garbage, and anybody that thinks we should run 7 frickin' overtimes every week is a moron.
On God.
How do you even follow that up? Anthony, good luck, dude. That was the best Chuck moment of the entire podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to get you on the Frontstretch podcast. Say the same thing.
Hang on. He doesn't do this often.
I volunteer as tribute. This pissed me off. I'm sorry.
This is a rare Chuck win.
No, Chuck wins in picks all the time.
He does win in picks all the time, except for this week.
I'll take the compliment, buddy. Go ahead, Anthony.
Now, I will preface with this. I'm also in agreement that this race ended the way it should have. I think that NASCAR made the right call with waiting to see what the 41 would do. And when it was evident that he couldn't get going, obviously they did the right thing to throw the yellow. They should maybe sit Ryan Preece down and say, hey, stop fucking wrecking and putting us in this situation.
I think
he didn't run out of gas, though.
I think his lack of contract next year will handle that problem.
It's true.
But that aside, at the same time, to play a little bit of a devil's advocate, because the fans do want to see green flag finishes. I think what fans wanted NASCAR to do, I don't know if they did or not. I'm not privy to that information, or I'm just too stupid to figure it out. I don't know. But I think what should have happened was when the 41 gets turned, NASCAR needs to be in on the radio of the 41 to see what the situation is. If it's one of those things where because Ryan Preece said on Twitter, plain and simple, I ran out of fuel. Like, I got run over because I ran out of fuel. It wasn't the 9's fault. But so what they should have been doing was listening into the 41 radio to see if Ryan Preece is saying, hey, I'm out of gas. I can't go anywhere. I try to get a refire, whatever. I have 2 flat tires. This car can't go anywhere on a small leak in the right rear. But and then in NASCAR's judgment, they could conceivably throw the yellow, re-rack him, and do it again. But on the other side of that, like Chuck said in his glorious rant, we don't need another Nashville, right?
Yep.
Yes, overtime restarts are dependent on drivers completing one singular lap, right? Just the 2 to go lap. They need to complete that, and then when they take the white, anything else can happen. Restarts are dependent on one single lap to get to an official race. But I do understand that, we don't need another Nashville. We don't need a situation where we have so many guys, again, including the 5, so low on fuel that this does turn into it. It's a different story maybe if everyone is completely 100% good to go for 500 green white checkers, but like everyone, it was clear that everyone that wasn't like Brad Keselowski or someone, like 20th on back, that there was a fuel situation. And then we have guys running out of fuel. Similar to what I said with if we wanted to re-rack and choose again with Blaney's suggestion or. It's just, we're going to waste more fuel and got more guys are going to run out. And it's going to become more of a farce than if they just ended the race under caution and helped Ryan Preece get that to pit road. Because listen, on the cooldown lap, several guys were running out of fuel. I believe if Bubba Wallace comes to mind, I think Christopher Bell as well was also low on fuel.
Yeah,
several drivers were getting assistance back to pit lane.
Yeah,
so
hang on.
They
Let's
needed
point
to end
this
the
out.
race.
Let's point this out too. It's just a little sidebar tidbit. By the way, appreciate the support of Daniel Hemrick with the Circle water bottle.
Yes, sir.
But you mentioned Christopher Bell ran out, got assistance from Ty Gibbs. Bubba Wallace ran out of gas, assisted from not teammate Kyle Busch. Corey LaJoie also ran out of gas on the last lap. No one helped him at all. So faith in humanity has once again been restored. And just to kind of close this out, we spent the entire week of Nashville talking about how terrible it was. Not just us, pretty much the entire NASCAR fan base. And then we learned from that mistake, and we're like, "Oh, not like that. I don't like that guy, so I don't want that. I don't want us to actually do the right thing here." So,
if there is one thing consistent about NASCAR fans, it's yearning for something to go away or to change, and then lamenting the fact that changed or is gone.
It's like the Brickyard 400
or my ex-wife.
Yes.
They always want something and can't have.
If it was okay.
I just think the limit should be 2. Like 1, if you leave it at 1 overtime, we've clearly seen these clowns are going to wreck the dog shit out of every single race car out there in 1 overtime attempt. Give them 2, no more, no less. Like
What's
after
wrong
2,
with making them deal with the fact that they can't wreck in the first corner of the overtime?
I'm fine with that. I'm just trying to appease some of the clowns out there. So sorry if you guys are offended by this. Maybe you should rethink how you feel.
Trying to make his own original idea by just changing one minor detail of my already idea.
Really, honest to God, I wasn't on the Nashville show, and for reasons unknown, I don't remember much post Nashville.
You're signing a deal with Gibbs.
I was, yeah. So
it fell through though.
I just think after 2, every time it goes past 2, it's like, what is this clown show? What are we doing?
Yeah.
Here's to put a quick cap on this. Yeah. I am of the opinion that, since it is Indy week, I might as well bring it up. I'm of the opinion that any race that's a crown jewel should finish under yellow. If it's the Daytona 500, let's go to 500 miles. If it's the Brickyard 400, let's go to 400 miles.
I'm fine with
the
that.
Southern 500, let's go to 500 miles. Other races where they're not, obviously every win matters, but other races that aren't classified as crown jewels, if we want to do overtimes, set a limit, whatever, no limit, I don't care. I think crown jewel races, if you're going to advertise biggest race of the year, Daytona 500, we shouldn't be running the Daytona 530. We should end at 200 laps, or in this case, this week, we should end at 160 laps. And then this whole thing doesn't get talked about. And Brad Keselowski is your Brickyard 400 champion.
I've been to a Coke 627, so I agree.
I went to Coke fucking 375 .5 this year or whatever the fuck.
Me too.
Suck. Yeah. I'm not sure which I want more, the 675 or the whatever. Whatever you just said.
675.
Or
that would
Chuck
be
just
hell.
said. I don't know,
627.
Thank you.
Stands would be empty.
You weren't at that one. That was 22.
I'd still be there. It doesn't matter. Holy
You
shit.
said you were there. It matters.
No, I was at. It doesn't. Literally,
Welcome to the Big Motor Small Blade podcast.
Where we argue
Welcome to
about
the Big
minor
Motor Small
details
Brain podcast.
We argue about minor details that don't fucking matter at all. just for the
These
sake
are
of
the
calling someone out
important
for being
facts.
wrong. No,
These
anyway,
are the important facts that people come to us for.
I doubt it.
What's next on my...
The blend line.
Yes. The blend line. Chase Elliott went...
Had his very first meltdown ever.
Yes, according to Jordan Bianchi, who was really just on one last night. But anyway, Chase Elliott goes a car length and a half outside of the zone he's allowed to be in. With, yes, 36 hours.
Details matter, Seth.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys adding details.
These are the facts that the people come to us for.
Why am I getting tag teamed by Chuck and Buddy? Anyway, Chase Elliott goes a car width and a half outside of the zone he's able to go into on the pit exit. He goes into what NASCAR themselves in the rule book described as the racing surface. Not Josh Berry, Brad Keselowski goes half a car width onto what NASCAR would call the racing surface. Kyle Larson put his right side tires on the white line. And I've had to read over and over and over and over again that these three instances are all the same and that Golden Boy got a call. Clearly, I don't agree with that.
It's the same thing as the yellow line. You can go on it. You can't go over it. Next stop.
Dude, I mean, what else is there to say, right?
I mean, yeah.
I mean, unless someone disagrees. with my assessment.
I mean, clearly, with everything that happened in the final,
it didn't cost me the picks win, so I don't. I don't disagree.
Rules are hard to understand for some reason for our sport, including sometimes by its own sanctioning body. But they actually got things right yesterday.
I'm guessing Brad thought that if he was partly on the apron, he was okay. I'm guessing that's what he thought. I don't know what the hell Chase Elliott was thinking. Like, clearly that's not.
It's been called before. It has been called in years past. He had the pool room
burgers on his mind.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, because that rule somehow, at least in the beginning of this, that was just so like chaotic because more than one person was penalized for it. So it wasn't like, Chase Elliott goes halfway up onto the racetrack and comes back down onto the access road. Obviously, that's going to be a penalty. When I saw that, I said that should be a penalty if it isn't.
Yeah.
But my thing is like the access road is the access road is the access road. Anything outside or inside is not the access road. Why are you trying to use it? And the whole idea, it's a little different in IndyCar because of the speed and grip of those cars, but the idea of swinging out to try to get more momentum, personally, to me, I could be the only one who thinks this is that advantage is so minimal to try to swing out and apex the turn 2 access road for pit exit. So I don't know why people need to do it anyway.
Racing is about thousandths of seconds.
I mean, it should be like if the access road has white lines that say here's where you can go. Like what Buddy said with the WL line, you can go on it, but if you go under it, not at any point, if you Justin Haley it at Daytona, however many years ago,
yeah,
that's a penalty, and it should be cut. It should be cut and dry, but apparently it wasn't, and it was two drivers, one who was a rather younger driver, one who was a veteran on the circuit. Both ends of the spectrum were confused on it. Meanwhile, I talked to Tyler Reddick after the race, and they were like, someone asked, "What did you understand? Did you understand the blend line rule?" And he looked at the person who asked the question and went, "Yes." That was it. So clearly, some people understood it, and others did not. So, it was. I think it was a bigger deal than it needed to be from the at least from the 9 team, and
100%.
Do you think the 5 car committed a penalty?
To be honest, I don't think so. But I also need to see it again because the 5 came out right after the 9.
Yeah.
And my focus was entirely on the 9, trying to basically merge in turn 1. Then I was like, that's a penalty. That has to be a penalty. So every time they'd replay it in the NBC booth, which by the way, they spent way too much time. Like they showed way too many replays. Like it was clear that there was a penalty and they kept replaying it many, many times. And it was pissing me off. But that being said, they were focused so much on the 9 that I need to see it again, but I don't think the 5 did anything wrong. I mean, he knows from IndyCar what to do. So, like, if he's doing it that way, then there's not a problem for him. So, this is a race that looks like it was officiated poorly, but it really wasn't.
Yeah.
So, at least in my opinion. I mean, yeah, it looks bad, but it really wasn't.
It's glaring because all of the things that were questionable involved one particular driver who benefited every single time. And and
essentially the argument I'm making is that this isn't acid. It's overblown entirely.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Yeah. I mean, luck is just when preparation meets opportunity. And like Kyle Larson, they prepared a very fast race car and he was given ample opportunity to flex that muscle and he won the Brickyard 400 because of it.
So we'll go ahead and jump into that portion of it.
Yes, that's what
okay, so nothing Kyle did was really that impressive, right? All he was doing was passing guys that were, going slow, to save fuel, right? Oh, that's actually wrong. The 9 was a beneficiary. Yes, the 9 benefited from pitting right before caution came out, which was, I don't know, Truex wrecking or something. I can't remember. That's another thing. Truex wrecked himself off Kyle Larson. I think that's pretty evident. Does anyone disagree with me?
No.
I was surprised to see Truex blaming the 1. That
was really weird. Okay, cool. So that's another thing.
Y'all know Ross tried to kill Trump?
That damn Ross Chastain.
Damn it, Ross. All right, anyway.
He's everywhere.
He took Biden out of the race.
All right, so anyway. So Chase pitted right when Martin Truex wrecked the second time. And so he was able to jump the 45 and the 5. So now if you notice, Kyle Larson is now behind both of these guys. And then in the shuffle, Tyler Reddick ended up about 4 cars ahead of Kyle Larson. So that makes Tyler Reddick in about 13th or 14th or 18th or whatever the hell it was. He's the first car that could make it, and he's got fresh tires. So what happens? Did Tyler Reddick run through the field? No. Not like Kyle Larson did.
Let's say not as fast, at least, yeah.
Not as fast, and he really only got there once the restart started happening late in the race. He wasn't there. He kind of could follow Kyle occasionally, but also he had a 4-car length or car gap. He had a 4-car advantage on Kyle that Kyle erased and then started putting more cars in between. And Elliott was out to lunch. Elliott clearly was early in the race. Elliott looked like the only car who could pass. And then when it came down to pay window opening, Chase was getting left in the dust.
I got 2 things. All right. One, clearly the test from Planned Parenthood came back clean. Chase Elliott, Alex Bowman, clearly they had fast race cars, but they're clearly trimmed out because once they got back in traffic, they were dead in the water pretty much. And then Kyle Larson is an IndyCar driver, and it's very fucking clear that he's an IndyCar driver because he drove that sumbitch like an IndyCar. And I just want to boast a little bit for myself and us last week because we said this would happen. We said that this car would present the opportunity to run more like an Indianapolis 500, and you would be able, and the car would drive more like an Indy car, which played directly into Kyle Larson's hands because all the moves he made, you literally watched them and you're like, that is a move I see in the Indianapolis 500. And it was incredible. It was incredible to watch. It captivated the entire the entire 2.5 miles facility. Like, everybody was like watching this heroic run he was on, saving fuel or not. We saw how damn hard it was to pass all damn day long. I mean, you hear it all the time. You got to be so much faster than the guy in front of you to make a pass. And that's on a not single groove racetrack, much less a single groove racetrack. So there's nothing really to take away from Kyle Larson. He fucking drove a masterful race there at the end.
In the interest of fairness, I'm pretty sure I said that Kyle's IndyCar experience would not help him this weekend.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah,
all right, sorry. So it was all me.
Anthony, you want to go before I go?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I will. I agree. I think it was evident that he had learned from the IndyCar and was able to put it to good use this time around when he came back in a stock car. And I mean, you said it. There were all eyes were on the 5, even if you weren't a fan of his, because obviously he was driving like a bat out of hell, not just because he had fresher tires and didn't have to worry about saving fuel, but also, you know, a lot of people came back to the Brickyard to see Kyle Larson after coming to see him in May.
There's a lot more 17 shirts than there were 5 shirts. I'll put it like that.
Oh, for sure. Oh, yeah. It was insane to see. And with the way that the double worked out for him, the way that the double didn't work out for him, you know, there was obviously a little extra motivation, especially running, you know, it was Kyle's idea to run the papaya this week. And it was clear that he wanted, it felt like he was driving like he wanted this one more than anything that he was winning this year, at least in NASCAR. And, you know, that IndyCar experience showed by making late moves that you would only see an IndyCar make. I couldn't tell you the last time I've seen a NASCAR stock car go to apex into 3 and then Larson goes lower all of a sudden. Like, he learned a lot, and he's a quick student, obviously. Yeah. So everything about his drive in that final run before all hell broke loose was incredible to see. And you know, the fans at the track, you know, were count themselves lucky to see such a generational run like that, especially with the package that they brought to that track.
Fuck.
So I had a really unique viewing experience of this because
I bet this was awesome for you.
The only visual that I had, I didn't have any access to TV or the TV feed, but NASCAR's YouTube was playing a live feed of Kyle Larson's in-car. So I had that for video feed, the camera's position on the right side of the car, and then the IMS radio broadcast for sound. And I'm watching these moves. I had no clue what position he was in. I'm just watching it. I'm like, holy shit. Like, I kept waiting on this camera to be turned around backwards or like Chicago style, knee deep in a barrier or something. And every time he'd like the dive bomb, I remember I glanced down and saw him make a dive bomb on Corey LaJoie, and it scared the shit out of me, honestly.
Dude, no, the one that scared the hell out of us was the one he made on
Bell.
On Chris Bell. Yeah. Ben Branscombe got a fantastic photo of this. He's sitting directly next. Dude, the whole section jumped up. Well, I was like, that he made that move. I was like, here we go. We're about to see the 5 and the 20 windshield deep in the
yeah, exactly.
That glass deep into the wall here.
Because as I'm watching that, like when he went low, Bell blocked. He goes lower and he hit Bell in the left rear. Like the left rear, I watched it wrinkle on the onboard live, and I was like,
all but got in Roger Penske's grass.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God. And then the move on Denny Hamlin where he crossed him over going into 2. I was like, dude, he's on him. He is on a mission.
That was the move. Because he was back in the throttle before he hit the fucking rumble strip. Like he let off, made that wide arc, and I mean, it was incredible.
So yeah, once I saw the Bell move and then the Denny move, I was like, damn, dude, this is a really unique experience to watch it in this way, because he was on a mission. and I essentially had a front row seat for it through a screen. And I'm almost, in a way, I'm sad that we didn't get to see the final 3.5 laps play out, because I think him and Blaney both were biding their time and knowing that the 6 may or may not have made it on fuel. So I think it would have gotten interesting. But watching that run through the field was definitely incredible, especially in the way that I did. And absolutely, it didn't dawn on me until afterwards, actually, but the IndyCar experience absolutely played into it. And that just goes back to like Reddick. I don't know the exact quote, but Reddick said something along the lines post-race of, that was an incredible move. I wish I had realized that was an option.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm thinking is one of 3 things are going to happen next year in the Brickyard 400. One, Kyle Larson's going to dust him again. Or the entire field's going to watch SMT and they're going to pick up on it, and we're going to see an entirely different race next year. And then this could be a byproduct of that. It's going to be a complete shit show because nobody else, very few drivers in that field can do what Kyle Larson did. So we might just see a massive shit show next year of guys trying to, of Corey LaJoie trying to be Kyle Larson.
God. Yes.
Well, and that's the thing too. Like,
Corey
they're
LaJoie
looking at
can't even
SMT.
be
They're gonna look at SMT and they're like, oh yeah, I can do that. But like, I think part of what made Larson's run so awesome was that he made it stick. There were several times where he went to make those inside passes, and we've seen it before at Indianapolis, where you go to make an inside pass and the guy on top crowds them enough to where they just spin out. IndyCar or NASCAR, it's happened in both series. So, you know, it was just insane to see that he could make it stick. And like, even, I mean, think about like that also proves the kind of race car driver that Kyle Larson, we all know Kyle Larson is one of the greatest race car drivers, at least of this generation.
He's okay.
But like, you know, I mean, he's all right. I mean, he didn't make the King's Royal and then decided he decided to step down to NASCAR and go out and win the Brickyard 400, but
couldn't make a man's race.
Like, think about Tyler Reddick. I mean, Tyler Reddick didn't have a bad drive through the field. He got up to like 8th or 7th before that caution. And Reddick's a pretty good driver, and he was able to get up to 8th. But Larson was just flying through the field. It shows the kind of race car driver that Kyle Larson is and how quick of a student he is to be able to pick up on what the Indy cars can do and put that into his racecraft in a stock car that weighs almost twice as much.
It's what we say about Shane Van Gisbergen. It's we said it. Jeremy said it when I did an interview with him. He's like, you watch all the SMT you want, but some things you just can't teach. And Kyle Larson is he can't teach a lot of what Kyle Larson does. But yeah, I want to maybe close this out with Kyle Larson. Not only is he one of the greatest race car drivers in the world, and Seth's going to roll his eyes harder than he's ever rolled his eyes before this. He's the most popular driver.
Stop that. Stop that.
He's the greatest race car driver in the world and the most popular driver. Kevin Harvick's dreams have been fulfilled. Like, finally, the most popular driver won't stunt the growth of the sport. And it's very apparent. But yeah.
Well, let me. I want to ask this question to you guys real quick, just because it just popped up in my head.
Yep.
Kyle Larson obviously doing the double was a big deal.
Yep.
And you know, it was clear that he has a big fan base in Indianapolis now because of it. Trying to be as you know, I'm trying to take a little bit of realism out of it because you all know that Chase Elliott's probably going to win again. But do you think that Kyle Larson has a bigger shot at most popular driver because of in hopes that maybe he gets the assistance of IndyCar fans who may not have voted on most popular driver before? And then, you know, that IndyCar boost might help him at least stay in, you know, be in contention for, you know, I should give Chase Elliott a run for his money. Do you think that could happen?
I think he wins. I truly think he's going to win.
I honestly agree because the Chase craze has been on a downward slope the last couple of years. And I almost think you see it in all the hatred that Larson gets on Twitter now is what Chase used to get 2 years ago.
Yeah. I mean,
if you solely took it by the noise made at the racetrack, yeah, he is.
It was Chase Elliott sounded like any other guy when they came out for driver intros. Kyle Larson, I mean, but like you just said, Anthony, Indy is different because of what he did at the Indianapolis 500. What?
And it's the Midwest where they like sprint car racing a whole lot more.
But it's been apparent in a lot of other places too. I think he's going to win.
I just want to say, my last thought on this is, we seem to get one of these just Kyle Larson masterclass clinics once a year now. Okay. Like 2022 was Homestead, 23 was Wilkesboro, Indy this year. And there's just times when Kyle figures out shit that he's just, every once in a while, he'll just get on this pedestal that is so much higher above everybody else that nobody can seem to figure out what he's doing in the moment. And I think that like raw talent that he displays like that is another thing that adds to his fan base.
Well, and then
100%.
The diversity.
He has the talent that Chase Elliott doesn't have in the same personality.
He's way funnier on Twitter.
Generally people,
Yeah. Obviously, the diversity of his portfolio is partly the cause of this. Obviously, he wins all the time. That is part of this. Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that.
Seth, how's it feel to watch your driver win the Brickyard 400?
It was pretty fucking cool.
That it?
It's funny. I was there on pit lane, like getting ready to like sprint to pit road and try to talk to drivers, and I saw Larson in the lead, and I was like, caution came out. I was like, oh boy, Seth's probably losing his shit up right now. I guarantee he's losing his mind at this.
Yep. I looked at Tyler when the caution came out the first time, and he looked at me and said he's got a shot, and I did this. My hand was kind of shaking. And then he took the lead on the next restart, and he said, let's get a handshake update. And it was shaking a little more. No doubt.
Well, okay, Seth, let me ask you this. Where does this rank for you? Where do you think this ranks of Kyle Larson's wins?
Let's preface this, because I heard ad nauseum how badly Seth wanted Kyle Larson to win the Southern 500. Seth's seen Kyle Larson win now 10 times. In person, he wanted that Southern 500 more. He said he would almost trade a 19-win season for a 1-win Southern 500 season. Kyle Larson. Yeah. I think his exact quote was, "I wouldn't do it, but I'd think about it." Great question. Where does it rank?
Okay, so the Brickyard 400. This was obviously my first time at the Brickyard 400. I'm a loyal Indy 500 goer, and the Brickyard 400 never was that high on my radar previously. Since Kyle's run the Indy 500, or since they announced he was going to run the Indy 500, all of a sudden the Brickyard 400 became more important to me, to be completely honest with you. And as soon as Indy finished the way it did, my mind kind of immediately pivoted to Kyle needs to win the Brickyard 400. And I've kind of had that thought in my head for the past 2 months. And then it happened. And it happened the way it happened.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it might be, as far as the ones for me.
This is you. What do you,
it might be number one.
Yeah. I would imagine, dude.
Yeah.
You watched him run the Indianapolis 500. And then you watched what he learned in the Indianapolis 500 with the car that he was doing the double with, or the paint scheme.
Yeah.
And do the damn thing.
Yeah. Now, if we want to talk about overall Kyle Larson wins, it's probably third behind one of his Chili Bowls and one of his Knoxville Nationals. If we're talking what Kyle probably thinks. I'm guessing. Maybe it's third. That's probably as high as it probably goes.
Yeah. Championship. It's a little different. Anyway.
I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah.
Kyle seems like the kind of guy who takes big races as a bigger deal than a cup title. I could be wrong, but
yeah, that's a mentality of, I think, a lot of short track guys. They take the
everything dirt. Nobody cares who wins a title.
Yeah.
In sprint cars, it's the Kings Royal, it's the Knoxville Nationals.
Yeah. Other than that, I think that's all we had for the race. I think we get the accolades, right? Or what do you got?
Well, do we want to talk about how we can make the racing better?
Yes, thank you. Yeah. All right. So obviously it was up until the generational run Kyle Larson went on, it was not the greatest thing we've ever seen in the world. But I'm of the opinion it wasn't any worse than any other Brickyard 400.
It looked like a race at Indianapolis to me.
It looked exactly like it. I think the way it ended with the run Kyle went on, and I think it'll be probably top 3 most memorable Brickyards ever. But what do you guys think? Any ideas to make it a little bit better, make it more like that, on like the greatest stock car race ever at Indy, the Xfinity race on Saturday? Any ideas?
We get
shit done on this show.
I did lean over to Tyler and say, I cannot. Halfway through the race, I leaned over and said, I can't believe I'm going to have to go on the show and advocate for a plate style package for the Cup Series. After the way the race ended, I'm not going to do that. But if they wanted to try it, I don't think it would. Honestly, here's the thing. I don't really think it'd work in a Cup car. We've seen that before. The 550 package was almost pretty similar.
Well, no, there was distinct difference. They had a big blade.
Yeah. I don't think it matters in the Cup car because, as much you would think they would be able to slingshot in a Cup car because they have so much drag on these things, and they just don't.
It's like the super speedway though, because once you pull out, you catch all the air. You got a big parachute on the back, and you can't go anywhere. You got a smaller blade. Maybe I'd do it.
I don't think we've seen that doesn't change much in a Cup car these days.
I'm in with a super speedway package, but
Chuck, you go ahead.
I have absolutely nothing to add because I didn't actually watch any of it, so I can't really say anything.
All right, Anthony.
My favorite Chuck answer ever.
Buddy's like, the less Chuck talks, the better.
I just don't want to screw up that master class of a rant he went on earlier.
Yes, fair enough.
In the back of my mind, don't worry.
It was an all-timer.
It was. It really was.
Sorry, Chuck. I'm fucking reaming your asshole today. My bad, dude.
Bless America. This is now a Rated X podcast.
It always has been.
We always post on X.
I never wear pants on this thing.
Or underwear.
Okay, Anthony, say something to save this, please.
Yeah, I mean
that.
Yeah,
saving this damn thing.
I mean, here's the thing, right? I think this race is treated a little bit differently, I think, than last week at Pocono or something like that. Because a lot of people said that Indy's comparable to Pocono, where it's a lot of drafting and you gotta try to make moves while you can on restarts and stuff like that, otherwise you can't pass. And I think at least this year, right? This is the first time we've run the Brickyard 400 since 2020. I think this year, I don't think anybody cared if the race was going to be a slugfest or just complete dog shit. I don't think anyone cared. I think people cared that we were back on the oval. Now, that being said, part of the reason we went back to the oval was because we know that the next gen car sucks on basically
every track,
any flat track, essentially. Basically short tracks and road courses. And I think we needed to test to see if the next gen could work at Indy. It's the same reason that we all say that we need to bring back Kentucky and Chicago, because the next gen slaps on 1.5 miles, and we should at least give it a try. And I think that's what they did here. Obviously, it wasn't the best, but also at the same time, Indy is notoriously difficult to pass anyway.
Yeah.
I feel like it has been since, even with the Gen 6 and beforehand.
Even in an Indy
I
car.
think, yeah, I mean, IndyCar, you have to rely on huge runs to pass. Otherwise, you'll just ride in a train.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what makes Indy. I feel like that's the one time where like the lack of passing kind of makes Indy special, because you have to have a perfect corner to be able to get a run on somebody to pass them. I personally am glad that Goodyear's tires held up, because that always seems to be an issue at Indy. So, being the first race of the next gen here, and having, knowing the safety issues that have arisen, have come up with the next gen, the fact that Goodyear's tires held up at a track like Indy, where we've seen incredibly hard crashes, that makes it a great race in my opinion to begin with. Now,
yeah.
I think, restarts were an issue all day. That was another thing, just that, it was because that was the only time you could get you'd pass people without trying to set up a run. And it ended in several drivers' days ending. I mean, there were a lot of crashes. Again, typical Indy, but I think this year was more about the spectacle of the 400 being back. And so, that being said, I don't know if there's anything that they should change. Obviously, I think next gen is, the next gen. Obviously, they need to be. Obviously, they're tweaking it almost every week. But I think what we saw again was a typical Indy race. And if we're gonna continue to have Indy on the schedule, which I totally think we should, and we're gonna run the oval, then I don't know how much more we can change, unless we want to make complete and utter wholesale changes that completely
yes,
we look at the sport 100% differently. So that's kind of my thought on the whole thing.
Chuck.
I have a way to fix the racing at Indy.
Oh, Jesus.
Put Chuck in a car.
I know what he's going to say.
Weekly
you
caution.
Take the next gen car, you blow that sumbitch up, and you start from scratch. All right, moving on.
Oh, it's not what I thought you were going to say.
Oh, what'd you think I was going to say?
Xfinity car.
Oh, that too.
Wait, no, one or the other. You can't have both.
Either one. Actually, yes, I can.
You can't start over and use the Xfinity car, Chuck.
You can take the Cup car, blow it up, and as you're rebuilding the Cup car, just accidentally happen making the Xfinity car.
I got an idea. I can't argue with that.
Oops, we got our templates mixed up, guys.
No, we do know that NASCAR has the perfect race car and runs it on Saturday. We all know that. But we could put more fucking horsepower in the cars. That's what I want to do. Isn't that fucking hard? I've heard that said before.
I feel
on
like
this podcast.
I've heard that one. Yeah, I feel like I have heard that one.
I don't remember who it was
argue.
that said it. But
I think it was Death Solby.
I echo that sentiment. Death Solby. Anyway, to the accolades. All right. Sundress and dumbass. Seth.
SVG. Sundress.
On God.
Dumbass. The entirety of NASCAR's fan base for the brain dead takes I saw on social media after the race. Did y'all even watch the race? Can you comprehend rules? Do you know what a jumped restart looks like?
Sounds like a commercial for a wall for him.
Hang on, there was another one.
If you do, call
1-800-BUTTHURT.
Pretty good.
I don't know. What
Never mind.
Number.
Never. Yeah, just go ahead and call that number.
Okay,
Anyway,
all right.
I nominate Charles.
That is me. So my sundress.
Charles Leclerc.
My sundress is going to be kind of
chicken eggs came out the butt.
Alrighty. So my sundress, first of all, is the track crew at Langley Speedway, because they had ponds on the front straightaway.
We gotta go, Cindy. We got ponds.
Saturday afternoon, and they were out there with brooms and leaf blowers and vacuums trying to get water off the front stretch. And my God, they ran Hampton Heat at Langley, and Dale Jr. was cooking steaks in the infield at 3 a.m. because the checkered flag fell at 2.
Damn.
So my other
Dale Jr. steak.
My other sundress is going to be Anthony and I's front stretch colleague, Michael Massey. Shout out to the OG, because he was sick.
Massey.
He was sick as hell covering Hampton Heat. And he stuck that shit out till the end by himself. He's a G. Also, shout out to our other front stretch colleague, Michael Finley, who was also too sick to go and still stayed up and watched and wrote the recap. Y'all are both badasses. Dumbass, I guess we're doing this all in one.
What the hell are you doing, Chuck?
I had family events to be at. Multiple birthdays.
People only have one birthday, Chuck.
My God forbid I take a week off.
No comment.
Honestly.
My dumbass is going to be the IMS radio broadcast.
Oh, it's going to be an unpopular one, let me tell you.
Vince Welch was terrible.
I really don't care, because I guess it was
Briscoe.
It was after the Truex first wreck, and I guess Larson went up and gave Ross a couple love taps. I don't really know what happened there, but
Larson said in his post-race press conference he was just bored.
Okay, so even worse, because IMS radio broadcasts, they're like, oh, Kyle Larson went up and gave a couple love taps to Ross Chastain, and then everyone on that broadcast started bitching. They were like, well, that's just extracurricular. There's no place for all that out on the racetrack. You know, we're getting closer to the playoffs. It's time for cooler heads to prevail. Then one would chime in and be like, yeah, that's just unnecessary and unacceptable. Jeff Hammond literally said it was unacceptable. And I'm like, bro, what fucking sport am I listening to? He bumped him under caution, and we're crying about that on radio broadcasts now? Shut up.
We did just fine Carson Escobar $50,000 for wrecking someone, and then
for wrecking someone.
Hooking, though.
I'm not done. And then we penalized Bubba for doing what he did to Bowman, so I understand.
That was attempted murder.
Obviously.
Kidding.
No.
I understand where maybe just by recent events, those type of extracurricular activities, as minute as it probably was, would have been up for question. I'm just presenting that argument. I don't agree with that.
I hear it. As I was listening to it, and the way they described the events that happened and then proceeded to give their take in that manner, I was like, bro, what is this? Like Formula One? No. Shut up.
All right.
Yeah. My other dumbasses are, as Seth said, everybody that thinks we should run 7 overtimes.
Where we give a sundress, dumbass, and then Chuck gives 3 of each. Anthony, go ahead.
Yeah. My sundress will go to the top 3 of the Xfinity race for providing us one of the greatest finishes of the season of the 2020s. I don't know. It was a fantastic finish overall. Very, very lovely. I'm also going to give a second. Hendrick Motorsports. We know they're dominant at the Brickyard 400. Specifically, they weren't as hot on the road course, and they went back to the oval and they won the first race back. So shout out Hendrick, because they have that place figured out even after 4 years away.
The cream rises to the top at Indy, and they're definitely the cream.
Yeah.
Well, that's what you mean.
Every 10 years, Jeff Gordon's gone to victory lane. Anyway, my dumbass, and this is where I'm I don't know if I'm stealing Seth's thunder for what he'll talk about on Push to Pass, but my dumbass is going to be IndyCar for not throwing a local yellow when Pato Award spun and caused Santino Ferrucci to about clear the catch fence. So, like I said, Seth, I don't know if I'm stealing your thunder. I guess that's a shameless plug to watch Push to Pass, but that was whenever egregious.
I get so thanks to Anthony for saying something about it. Push to Pass will be up at some point this week. I am really tired, so it's definitely not coming out today or tomorrow, but probably Thursday. Wait, no, I might be busy Thursday. I don't know. It'll be up at some point.
My sundress, I mean, it's low-hanging fruit, but as a good friend once told me, I'd jump over multiple tables and cross 7 seas to pick up the low-hanging fruit. I'm going to go with the greatest race car drivers in the world, Shane Van Gisbergen and Kyle Larson. Shane had a 4th place run in the Xfinity race. It put lead in my pencil, that's for sure. And then watching Kyle Larson do what he did, and then seeing my friend enjoy his favorite driver win a crown jewel event was pretty fucking cool. So, yeah, Seth, you could be sundressed too.
Yay.
Yeah, just don't wear one.
Noted. Noted.
2024, do whatever you want.
He's going to show up on the next podcast being like, you called me a sundress last week, and now look at what I got on.
That's right.
To celebrate.
Dumbass. I don't know. Not many people did many dumb things. Oh, no, I got 2 dumbasses. 2 A1 complete definition of dumbass.
I think I know one of them.
Yes. All right. So, a guy I know and his friend this weekend, we're going to the racetrack together. And without communicating with each other, decided, I'll buy the camping spot. And both bought a camping spot for this weekend. And those 2 friends I know are myself and Seth Dolby. We had 2 camping spots for Indy. And the reason we did is because I text Seth. I go, hey, man, camping's $70. Seth's like, oh, cool. Let's do that. All right, cool. So I immediately go, since I suggested it, I go and buy a camping spot. And then no sooner, I hit checkout. I hit pay. No sooner did I hit that, Steph's text pops up on my screen. All right, man, we're all set. So we both bought a camping spot for Indy. We only utilized one. But yeah, that's dumbass of the week right there.
Yeah.
I think that takes a cake.
Yeah, that might be the grand
wouldn't
dumbass
be
of
this
the week.
week. That's like incredible.
That's a first. It's not a first.
All right, that was picks. I picked Chase Elliott. He came through for me. Yeah.
I had Ross. I was second, and Seth, for some reason, picked Jimmy Johnson. So
wait, so I get to pick first? Well, it doesn't matter. You guys don't have my pick. I'm picking Martin Truex Jr. for Richmond.
Cool.
Wow. Speaking of low-hanging fruit.
That's right, dude.
You know what's really going to piss me off is that I picked him for the first Richmond, and I almost had that bitch, and then
I swooped in and took it.
You did, and then a NASCAR race broke out.
Yeah, pretty much. I am going to pick Mr. Busher. Chris Busher.
That's what I wrote down. I'm going to go with Austin Cindric then.
Why?
Because I had to think of something on the fly.
Dude has never run better than 27th there.
Yeah. I've given up,
dude,
Chuck.
he won Gateway.
Yeah, bro. He won Gateway on raw speed. You know, it's not like he was the 3rd best car or anything. He won on raw speed, man.
The best you can do on any given Sunday is put yourself in a position to win. And
no, the best you can do is what Kyle Larson did.
Okay.
That's fair.
Don't put disrespect on Austin Windrick. Anthony, who are you picking for Richmond?
Oh, gosh.
You don't talk as much as Chuck, so you might be invited back on here.
Oh, boy.
I hate it here.
Is that
my
invitation dependent on who I pick? if I pick the wrong guy? Is that like
no? They hold on before you do that. Sorry, I do want to say I give Chuck a lot of shit on here, and it sounds like I hate Chuck. I'm the one who gave him his own show and edit said show on this YouTube channel.
Except that one time I did it.
I like
shameless plug. Watch On Tour for Hampton Heat this week.
That's right. Anyway, Anthony, who is your pick for Richmond?
All right.
I'm now that the Fords are seemingly back, I'm gonna go with Joey Logano to win Richmond.
Okay, if that happens and you manifested it, you're not invited back on the show.
Yeah, okay, yeah, you did set up. Yeah,
I knew where that was going.
Hey, that might bode well for your Cedric pick, though.
That's true.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's been the show, right?
Big motor, small brain. I've been Seth. He's been Buddy.
I'm Buddy.
They've been Chuck and Alan. Anthony. I'm sorry. I'm kidding. I'm playing up the sleepy
Chuck
thing.
and Alan.
Listen, I've heard Andrew. People have called me Andrew before. I've never ever heard Alan.
That was on purpose. That was a joke. We could make you
still.
We need you we need to find you a more permanent Chuck-like nickname.
All right, I gotta go fuck yourselves.
Yep. Agreed.